The breakthrough. The stars had mocked humanity for 400 years. Since the first colonies spread across Mars and the moons of Jupiter, every generation dreamed of reaching beyond the solar system. But the universe had rules, and those rules said faster than light travel was impossible. The speed of light was a wall that could not be broken, a limit written into the fabric of reality itself. Dr. James Rodriguez did not accept limits. He stood in the observation room of the Titan research facility, watching technicians make final adjustments to the strangest machine humanity had ever built. It did not look like much from the outside, just a sleek spacecraft the size of a commercial airliner with unusual crystalline panels covering its hull. But inside that ship was technology that had cost him his reputation, his marriage, and nearly his sanity. "They still think you're crazy, you know," said a voice behind him. Rodriguez turned to see Lieutenant Commander Eva Okonkwo walking toward him. The test pilot was tall and confident, with the kind of calm that came from surviving 3 combat tours in the belt. Wars. She had volunteered for this mission, when every other pilot had refused. "They've always thought I was crazy," Rodriguez replied with a tired smile. "When I published my paper on consciousness-linked navigation, half the scientific community wanted me committed. The other half just laughed." Ava joined him at the window. "And yet here we are about to test the impossible. Tell me again why you think this will work when every other FTL attempt has failed." Rodriguez had explained it 1,000 times, but he never tired of it. This was his life's work, his obsession. Every FTL theory assumes we need to bend space or create wormholes. They're trying to move through normal space faster than light allows. But what if we don't move through normal space at all? "The neural drive," Eva said. "You think we can use human consciousness to navigate through another dimension. Not just navigate, see, perceive. The mathematics work. Eva, there's a layer of reality beneath our own. A substrate where distance doesn't work the same way. But it's not empty space. It's chaotic, alive in ways we don't understand. Computers can't map it because it doesn't follow logical patterns. But the human brain, especially one trained like yours, can perceive the pathways through it." Eva looked skeptical but intrigued. "And you're sure I won't end up scattered across dimensional space?" 70% sure. You're a terrible liar, Doctor. Fine, 60%. But those are better odds than Columbus had. The facility's director, General Chen, entered the observation room with a tablet in hand. The old military officer had fought hard to keep this project funded, despite opposition from Earth's government. "Final checks are complete. We're green across the board. Rodriguez, this is your show. Give the word and we launch." Rodriguez felt his heart hammering. 5 years of work came down to this moment. If the test failed, they would lose everything. If it succeeded, they would change human history forever. He looked at Eva, who nodded once. She was ready. "Begin the sequence," Rodriguez said. Down in the launch bay, the neural drive powered up. The crystalline panels on the hull began to glow with a soft blue light. Inside the cockpit, Eva settled into the pilot's chair. Unlike traditional spacecraft controls, the neural drive interface was minimal. A neural crown lowered onto her head, connecting her consciousness directly to the ship's systems. "Neural link established," the AI assistant reported. "Pilot synchronization at 87%. Drive cores charging." Eva closed her eyes and felt the ship around her. It was not like flying a normal craft. She could sense the space beyond the hull, feel the fabric of reality like a texture against her mind. And beneath that fabric she felt something else, a depth that called to her. "I can feel it," she whispered into the comm. "There's something under normal space. It's like standing at the edge of an ocean." Rodriguez leaned forward in the observation room. "That's it, Eva. That's the substrate. Don't force your way in. Let your mind find the pathway." The ship's drive reached full power. Reality around the vessel began to shimmer, not like heat distortion, but like the universe itself was becoming uncertain. Eva focused her consciousness, reaching for that depth she sensed. And then she pushed. The ship did not accelerate. It did not move through space at all. It simply stepped sideways out of reality and disappeared. In the observation room, alarms blared. "Contact lost," a technician shouted. "The ship is gone from all sensors." General Chen gripped Rodriguez's shoulder. "Where is she?" "Exactly where she should be," Rodriguez said, though his voice shook. "In the substrate. If I'm right, she'll emerge at the coordinates in 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours. Rodriguez watched the countdown on his tablet, praying he had not just killed a brave woman with his theories. The facility held its breath. At 29 seconds, reality cracked open 3 million kilometers away, exactly at the target coordinates. The ship tumbled out of the substrate and into normal space. Eva's voice crackled over the comm, filled with wonder and fear. I saw it. I saw everything. Doctor, there are things in there. Living things. Structures that shouldn't exist. But I found the path. I brought us through. The observation room erupted in celebration. Technicians hugged each other. General Chen allowed himself a rare smile. Rodriguez collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed with relief. They had done it. Humanity had broken the light barrier using a method no one had imagined possible. But the celebration lasted only 10 minutes. That was when the sensors detected something new, ships, dozens of them, dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. They were massive, built from materials that scattered sensor beams in rainbow patterns, and they were heading toward Earth at speeds that should have been impossible. My God, General Chen breathed. They're alien. We have first contact. Rodriguez felt ice flood his veins. In all his calculations and theories, he had never considered this possibility. He had been so focused on whether humanity could achieve FTL that he never asked if they should, never wondered what might be watching when they finally succeeded. The alien fleet sent a message on every frequency. When translated, it was simple and chilling. Cease your experiments immediately. You have violated the Concordate protocols. We are coming to ensure compliance. Within hours, the alien fleet reached Earth orbit. They called themselves the Galactic Concordate, a coalition of 47 species that had maintained peace for 20,000 years. Their flagship was the size of a small moon, and from it came a shuttle carrying their ambassador. Ambassador Threll was not what humanity expected. The alien was crystalline, roughly humanoid but translucent, with light flowing through its body in patterns that might have been speech. It spoke through a translation device that rendered its words in perfect English. I am here to prevent a catastrophe, Threll announced to the assembled human leaders in the United Nations chamber. Your species has developed what we call a void breacher. This technology is forbidden by the oldest laws of our civilization. President Williams, representing Earth's unified government, stood to respond. With respect, Ambassador, we were not aware of your existence until an hour ago. How can we violate laws we did not know existed? Ignorance does not excuse the danger, Threll replied, its light pulsing with what might have been urgency. 15 million years ago, a species called the Architects created technology similar to yours. They learned to breach the substrate dimension. For a time, they prospered. They could travel instantly anywhere in the galaxy, but they did not understand what lived in the substrate. Threll activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing a civilization at its height, beautiful cities on 1,000 worlds. Then the images changed. The cities burned. Ships were torn apart by forces that looked like holes in space. Entire planets went dark. The things that exist in the substrate are not meant to enter our reality, Threll continued. The Architect's breaches weakened the barriers between dimensions. What came through consumed them utterly. It took the combined might of every species in the galaxy to seal the breaches and drive the entities back. 7 billion sentient beings died. 12 species went extinct. The survivors vowed never to let it happen again. The chamber fell silent. Rodriguez felt sick. Eva, watching from the back of the room, looked pale. We demand that you cease all void breacher experiments immediately, Threll said. Dismantle your facility. Destroy your research. If you refuse, we will be forced to quarantine your entire system. You will never leave your star. This is not a negotiation. This is survival. President Williams looked at the faces around the chamber. Fear, anger, defiance, all mixed together. Ambassador Threll, give us time to discuss this among our people. This is not a decision one person can make. You have 1 solar week, Threll replied. After that, we will assume your answer is refusal. When the alien ambassador left, the chamber exploded into argument. Some demanded immediate compliance. Others saw it as alien tyranny, an attempt to keep humanity trapped and powerless. Rodriguez sat in the back, his mind racing. Eva found him there an hour later. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Rodriguez said slowly, that they're afraid. Not just cautious, genuinely terrified, which means either they're telling the truth about what happened to the Architects, or there's something they're not telling us. Or both, Eva suggested. Rodriguez pulled up his tablet, reviewing the data from Ava's test flight. You said you saw structures in the substrate. Living things. Describe them. Ava closed her eyes, remembering. They were vast, ancient. They moved in ways that hurt to watch, like they existed in more dimensions than I could perceive. But Rodriguez, they weren't aggressive. They seemed curious. And there was something else. What? Patterns. Mathematical patterns in the substrate itself, like someone had built roads through the chaos. I followed those roads. They led me safely to the exit point. If those patterns are artificial, if someone designed them, then maybe the substrate isn't as dangerous as the aliens think. Maybe it's just misunderstood. Rodriguez looked at the data again with new eyes. Ava was right. The pathways she described showed structure, organization. The alien said computers can't map the substrate because it doesn't follow logic. But you mapped it, Ava. Your human brain perceived patterns their technology missed. So what does that mean? Rodriguez stood up, a new theory forming. It means maybe the architects failed because they weren't human. Maybe their brains couldn't perceive the substrate the way ours can. Maybe that's why their breaches went wrong. That's a big maybe, Doctor. It's the biggest maybe in human history, Rodriguez agreed. But if I'm right, then we're not repeating the architects' mistakes. We're doing something entirely different. Something that might actually be safe. Ava smiled grimly. Then we'd better prove it before that week is up. Because somehow I don't think the Galactic Concordat is going to take our word for it. Rodriguez nodded, his mind already planning the next test. Humanity had been given an ultimatum. Submit or face isolation. But there was a third option. One that terrified him and thrilled him in equal measure. They could prove the aliens wrong. They could show the galaxy that humanity had found a way to safely navigate the impossible. They just had to survive the attempt. The choice the week that followed first contact was the most chaotic in human history. Every news network broadcast the same debates endlessly. Should humanity submit to the Concordat's demands or defy them? The arguments tore through governments, divided families, and sparked protests in every major city on Earth and the colonies. Dr. James Rodriguez barely slept. He spent every waking hour in his laboratory at the Titan facility, analyzing data from Eva's test flight. The more he studied the recordings, the more convinced he became that humanity had stumbled onto something unique, something the galaxy had never seen before. General Chen found him on the third day, surrounded by holographic displays showing mathematical models of the substrate dimension. The general looked exhausted. The World Council is leaning toward compliance. They're scared, Rodriguez, and I can't blame them. The Concordat has shown us recordings of what happened to the architects. It's nightmare fuel. Rodriguez did not look up from his work. Have they shown us everything, though? That's what bothers me. Why are they so afraid of technology they claim destroyed a civilization 15 million years ago? If the threat is that ancient, shouldn't it be long gone? Maybe they're just being cautious. Or maybe they're protecting something, Rodriguez muttered. He pulled up a new display showing the pathways Eva had described in the substrate. Look at this, General. These patterns she followed. They're not natural formations. Someone built them. And they're recent, relatively speaking. No more than a few million years old. Chen leaned closer. You think the architects built roads through the substrate before they fell? Or someone else did. Someone who survived. Rodriguez finally turned to face the general. I need to run another test. A longer one with more detailed scans. Eva's flight was only 30 seconds through the substrate. I need at least 5 minutes to properly map the structures we detected. The Concordat will see it as a direct violation of their ultimatum. They're going to see anything we do as a violation unless we completely surrender. At least this way. We'll have data to support our position. General Chen was quiet for a long moment. If I authorize this and something goes wrong, it could mean war with a coalition of 47 species. We'd lose badly, and if we don't try, we lose anyway. We become a quarantined species, forever trapped in our own system, watching the rest of the galaxy from a distance. Is that really the future you want for humanity? The general sighed. Get your pilot ready. You have authorization for one more test. But Rodriguez, if this goes wrong, history will remember us as the people who doomed Earth. History will remember us for trying, Rodriguez replied. Lieutenant Commander Eva Okonkwo did not hesitate when Rodriguez asked her to fly again. She had been expecting it. In the days since her first flight, she had dreamed of the substrate every night. The patterns, the structures, the sense of vast intelligence moving through dimensions beyond human comprehension. It called to her. "The Concordate won't be happy," she said as they prepared the neural drive for its second activation. "The Concordate can file a complaint," Rodriguez said with more confidence than he felt. "Ava, I need you to go deeper this time. Follow those pathways you saw. Find out where they lead. Record everything." Eva climbed into the cockpit and settled into the neural interface chair. The crown lowered onto her head, and immediately she felt the connection snap into place. It was stronger this time, clearer. She could sense the substrate even before the drive activated, like hearing distant music through a wall. "Neural synchronization at 92%, the AI reported. Drive cores charging? Initiating breach sequence." Rodriguez watched from the observation room, his heart pounding. Around him, technicians monitored every system. General Chen stood silently in the corner, his face unreadable. They all knew what was at stake. The ship's crystalline hull began to glow. Reality shimmered. Ava closed her eyes and reached for the substrate with her consciousness. This time she did not just touch the surface. She dove deep. The ship vanished from normal space. Inside the substrate, Eva opened her eyes to impossible beauty. This was not the empty void she had expected. It was alive, vibrant, filled with colors that had no names and structures that defied geometry. She could see the pathways clearly now, glowing ribbons of organized space cutting through the chaos. They branched and merged like rivers, flowing in directions that were not quite spatial. "I'm in," she reported, though she knew her voice might not reach the facility. Time worked differently here. Following the primary pathway. There are dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They stretch as far as I can perceive. She guided the ship along one of the larger pathways. As she traveled, she began to understand. The substrate was not a dimension of pure chaos. It had structure, rules, but those rules operated on principles human mathematics could barely describe. The pathways were safe zones, areas where the substrate's natural chaos had been tamed and organized. Then she saw them, the builders. They were not creatures in any conventional sense. They were patterns of consciousness, vast intelligences that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They moved through the substrate the way fish moved through water, natural and graceful, and they noticed her. Eva felt their attention focus on her ship, not hostile but intensely curious. They had never seen anything like her before, never encountered a consciousness that could navigate their realm with such ease. They circled her vessel, examining it from angles that should not exist. One of them came closer. Eva felt its presence like a weight against her mind. It was trying to communicate, pushing concepts and feelings into her consciousness. She saw images, memories that were not her own. A civilization that had learned to live in the substrate, not the architects, someone older. They had built the pathways, created safe routes through the chaos. But they had withdrawn from normal space millions of years ago, content to exist in their transcendent realm. They showed her what happened to the architects. The younger species had tried to force their way into the substrate with crude technology, tearing holes in reality. The substrate's natural inhabitants had defended their home, pushing back against the invasion. The war was not aggression. It was self-defense, but humans were different. Ava's consciousness moved through the substrate naturally, almost gracefully. The ship's neural drive did not tear reality. It slipped between dimensions like a needle through fabric. The substrate dwellers found this fascinating. They showed her more pathways, secret routes that connected distant parts of the galaxy. "Rodriguez, if you can hear me," Ava whispered. "We've been wrong about everything. The substrate isn't dangerous. We just needed to approach it correctly. The Concordate is afraid because they can't do what we can. They can't see the pathways. They can only tear holes and hope. But humans, we can navigate here safely. This is our gift." She continued along the pathway for 4 more minutes, mapping every detail. The substrate dwellers accompanied her, showing her wonders that would take lifetimes to fully understand. When she finally prepared to exit back into normal space, she felt something like sadness from them. They had enjoyed her visit. They hoped she would return. Eva guided the ship to an exit point and pushed through. Reality solidified around her vessel. She emerged exactly where she intended, 5 light years from Earth. In the substrate, she had traveled a distance that would take decades at light speed. The journey had felt like minutes. "Neural drive disengaging," the AI announced. "All systems nominal." Welcome back, Commander. Eva opened her eyes and smiled. They had done it. They had proven that humanity could safely navigate the substrate. Now they just had to convince the Concordat. But the Concordat was not in a listening mood. When Eva jumped back to Earth, she found the Titan facility surrounded by alien warships. Ambassador Threll's face appeared on every screen, its crystalline form pulsing with what could only be anger. "You were warned," Threll's translated voice announced. "You conducted another void breach despite our explicit prohibition. This is an act of defiance. We must now assume humanity poses a threat to galactic stability." General Chen stepped forward to respond. "Ambassador, if you'll just look at the data from our flight, you'll see that we're not repeating the architect's mistakes. Our method is fundamentally different. All void breaches are the same," Threll insisted. "You cannot control what you do not understand. We will not allow your recklessness to endanger the galaxy." Rodriguez could not stay silent any longer. He activated his own communication channel, broadcasting directly to the Concordat fleet. "You're afraid because you can't do what we can. Your species, all 47 of them, cannot perceive the substrate dimension the way humans can. You've been trying to map it with instruments and logic, but it doesn't work that way. The substrate requires consciousness, intuition, pattern recognition that organic brains evolved for other purposes happen to possess. Specifically human brains." There was a long silence. Then Threll spoke, and for the first time the ambassador sounded uncertain. "You claim your species has a unique ability?" "I don't claim it. I can prove it. The substrate isn't chaos. It's organized, structured, safe if you know how to navigate it. The beings that live there aren't hostile. They're protective of their home. The architects failed because they invaded. We succeeded because we were invited." Eva joined the transmission. "I met them, Ambassador. The substrate dwellers. They showed me pathways your people have never seen. Safe routes that connect the entire galaxy. They've been waiting for a species that could navigate properly. They want to help us." More silence. Rodriguez could imagine the debate happening on the Concordat flagship. Everything they believed about the substrate was being challenged. Finally, Threll spoke again. "If what you say is true, prove it. Take one of our ships through the substrate. Show us these pathways. If you can navigate safely while carrying a Concordat observer, we will reconsider our position." Rodriguez and Eva exchanged glances. It was a risk. If anything went wrong, war would be inevitable. But it was also an opportunity. "Agreed," Rodriguez said. "Send us your observer. We'll show you what humanity can do." The observer was a being called Krell, a massive armored creature with 6 eyes and a skeptical attitude. It boarded the neural drive vessel with obvious reluctance. Eva welcomed it aboard and began explaining how the system worked. "This will feel strange," she warned. "Your mind might not perceive the substrate the way mine does. But trust me to guide us." Krell growled something that the translator rendered as, "This is madness." "Probably," Eva agreed cheerfully. "But it's humanity's specialty." They activated the neural drive. As the ship breached into the substrate, Krell made a sound of pure terror. Its 6 eyes saw only chaos, impossible geometries that threatened to break its sanity. But Eva saw the pathways clearly. She guided them along one of the routes the substrate dwellers had shown her, moving with confidence through a realm that appeared nightmarish to Krell. "Can you see the pathways?" Eva asked. "I see nothing but horror," Krell admitted. "How can you navigate this?" "I don't know. I just can. It's like asking how you can see color. It's just how my brain interprets the data." They traveled for 2 minutes through the substrate, covering dozens of light years. Eva showed Krell the structures, pointed out the substrate dwellers moving in the distance. Slowly, the aliens' terror turned to amazement. Humanity really could do something no other species in the galaxy could manage. When they emerged back into normal space, Krell was silent for a long time. Finally, it spoke. "I must report this to the Concordat Council immediately. If humanity truly can navigate safely where we cannot, everything changes." The negotiations that followed took 3 weeks. The Concordat examined Eva's flight data, interviewed Rodriguez about his theories, and conducted their own tests. Every test confirmed what humanity had claimed. Humans possessed a unique ability to perceive and navigate the substrate dimension. The final treaty was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Humanity agreed to restrictions on neural drive technology. Only licensed human pilots could operate the ships. Strict protocols would govern substrate navigation. In exchange, the Concordat lifted the quarantine threat and offered humanity full membership in galactic civilization. But the most surprising term was this: humanity would become the galaxy's dimensional pilots. Any species wanting to use substrate travel would need to hire human navigators. Earth, once isolated and unknown, would become the most important world in the galaxy. Ambassador Threll personally delivered the treaty to the United Nations. Its crystalline form pulsed with something that might have been respect. Your species has a gift we did not expect. Use it wisely. The substrate is not a toy, and the responsibility you accept is immense. But if you truly can navigate safely where we cannot, then perhaps this is humanity's purpose in the galaxy. President Williams signed the treaty, and humanity took its first official step into galactic civilization, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as partners with a unique and valuable role to play. Rodriguez watched the signing from the Titan facility. Ava stood beside him, still wearing her pilot's uniform. "We did it," she said quietly. "We reached the stars." "We did more than that," Rodriguez replied. "We showed them that humanity doesn't give up. We take what seems impossible and make it real. That's what we do. That's what we've always done." Outside the facility, the first official Earth substrate navigation school was already under construction. Young pilots from around the world were applying, eager to become humanity's first generation of dimensional travelers. The stars were no longer distant dreams. They were destinations connected by pathways only human minds could perceive. Eva smiled. "What's next for you, Doctor?" "You've achieved faster than light travel. That's usually where the story ends." Rodriguez laughed. "This isn't the ending, Ava. This is just the beginning. We've mapped a tiny fraction of the substrate. There are pathways leading to other galaxies, maybe even other universes. We have millennia of exploration ahead of us. Humanity has been given a gift, and now we get to see where it takes us." He looked up at the stars, no longer distant or mocking. They were calling, and humanity was finally ready to answer. The galaxy had feared humanity's engine, feared what it might unleash. But in the end, they discovered something more terrifying and wonderful than any weapon. They discovered human determination, the refusal to accept limits, the drive to transform the impossible into the inevitable. And now, with the substrate pathways open before them, humanity would show the galaxy what a species could achieve when they refused to stay in their cage. The neural drive had changed everything. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was uniquely human, and that made all the difference.